All right, let's take a look at a few more word problems here. Please use the formula s equals to 2 times the square root of 5x to determine the speed s in miles per hour of a skid length x feet. Okay, so determine the speed of a car whose skid length is 45 feet. Okay, so I guess the police can measure the skid length, and if it's 45 feet, they can kind of approximate how fast the car was going. Okay, so let's start out by rewriting the formula here. So s equals to 2 times the square root of 5x, and basically this x represents the skid length, right? So x is going to be 45 in this case. So s equals to 2 times the square root of 5 times 45. And 5 times 45 is going to be roughly, that's going to be 225. So this is going to be 2 times the square root of 225. And I believe the square root of 225 has come up before in a previous problem, and that's going to be 15. So 15 times 15 is 225. So the square root of that is going to be 15. And 2 times 5 is going to be, 2 times 15 is going to be 30. So 30 miles per hour. So the car was going 30 miles per hour, and it produced a skid mark of 45 feet. Okay, for the next one, now we have a bigger skid mark at 180 feet. So for this problem again, we're just using the formula that was given to us. So s equals to 2 times the square root of 5x. And x is having a value of 180 here. So 2 times the square root of 5 times 180. And 5 times 180 is going to be 900. So this will be 2 times the square root of 900. And the square root of 900, we've also seen that before on our previous question. So, well, the square root of 9 is going to be 3. And since we have 2 zeros, that means the square root of that will have just 1 zero. So 2 times 30 is going to be 60. So the car or the vehicle was going 60 miles per hour. Okay, let's move on to a few more here. So question number 7 now. The area of a rectangle with length twice as long as the width is 1,250 meters squared. Determine the length and width of the rectangle. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a rectangle here. And this is the length, and this is the width. So I know that the area is equal to length times width. And the area in this case is going to be 1,250, which is length times width. Okay, great. All right, so the length is twice as long as the width. All right, so length is twice as long as the width. Okay, so if the width is just w, the length is going to be twice as long as that. So instead of writing L, I can write 2w, right? The length is twice as long as the width. So it's going to be w times 2 for the width. Okay, so let's go ahead and change length to 2w now. So 2w, and then I'll leave this as just a single w there. And then let's go ahead and solve this equation here. Okay, so w times w is w squared. So 2w squared equals to 1250 here on the left-hand side. And then I can divide both sides by 2. If I do that, those 2's will cancel. And then I'm just left with w squared. And now we can do what? Now we can go and calculate 1250 divided by 2. And that's going to be 625. And then from here, you can just take the square root of both sides. And the square root of 625 is going to be 25. So 25 times 25 is 625. Okay, so if I go back to my diagram here, I know my width here is going to be 25. So 25 meters, and the length is double that, so this will be 50 meters, right? So the length is 50 meters because it's double the width. And that's why we have the 2 there, right? The 2 is doubling the 2 doubles that, and you get 50 meters there. Okay, let's keep on going on here. Let's move on to question number 8 now. A cube has a volume of 216 centimeters cubed. Determine the length of each side of the cube. Okay, so I guess we have one of these classic 3D cubes. And I know that the volume of a cube is the length times the width times the height, right? So volume equals to length times width times the height. and the volume here is now 216. Now, when you have a cubed, all sides are equal, so maybe we can just label all the sides just x, right? So L becomes x, W becomes x, and H becomes x. So this will be x times x times x, and this will be x to the power of 3. So x times x times x is x cubed. All right, now to solve this equation here, you can take the cube root of both sides. Right, so I get x here on the right hand side, and the cube root of 216 is going to be 6. So 6 times 6 is 36, and 36 times 6 gives you the 216. So I have 16 feet for each side of that cube. I apologize, not feet, it's actually 6 centimeters here, sorry, 6 centimeters there. Okay, great. 2 more questions and then we're done this homework video guide. Okay, a rectangular solid has a length 3 times the width and a height of twice its width. The volume of the rectangular solid is 384 inches cubed. Determine the dimensions of the rectangular solid. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a 3D shape here. And something like that. All right, so I have my length here, I have my width here, and I have my height. Okay, so I know the volume is going to be length times width times the height, and the volume in this case is 384, right? So 384 equals to the length times the width times the height. Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and fill in the extras now. So the length is 3 times the width. Okay, so this length is 3 times the width, right? So if the width is W, then the length is going to be 3W. And the height is twice its width, right? So if the width is W, then the height is twice that, which is 2W. Okay, so I'm going to take these guys now, the 2W, the W, and the 3W, and plug that in. So 384 equals to the length. Now the length is now 3W times W times, and then we should see that this height here is going to be 2W here. Okay, so we're just going to plug in those values, and now we're going to find the dimensions of this rectangular solid here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. What's 3 times 2? 3 times 2 is going to be 6. And then we have W times W times W, and that's going to be W cubed. And then I have 384 on the left-hand side. After that, I can divide both sides by 6. And 384 divided by 6 is going to be 64. And then I'll have those 6's will cancel, and you have W cubed on the right-hand side. After that, you can take the cube root of both sides. So W is going to be the cube root of 64, and that's going to be 4, I believe, right? So 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is going to be 64. Okay, so the width is 4, right? So if I go back to my diagram here, what we just determined here is the width here is 4. So 4 inches is the width. And since the length is 3 times that, 3 times the width, that's going to be 12 inches. And now my height is double the width. So 4 times 2 is going to be 8, right? So that's going to be 8 inches. All right, so there it is. 12 inches and then 4 inches by 8 inches. Okay, let's move on to the last one here. The volume of a sphere is given by this formula with the radius r of the sphere, and we need to determine the radius if the volume is 972 pi millimeters cubed. Okay, so not a hard problem here. We start off with this weird looking formula. Volume equals to 4/3 pi r cubed, and we know that the volume is 972 pi, so 972 pi equals to 4/3 times pi times r cubed. And our goal is I want to find the radius, which is right there. Okay, so now we do a little bit of algebra here. This pi and that pi, they cancel off. So now I have 972 equals to 4/3 times r cubed. Okay, now the question is, there's a few ways you can do this. How do I get rid of this 3 here? Well, you can just take that 3 and you can multiply that with the 972. So 972 times 3 is going to be 2,916 equals to 4 times r cubed. And then how do you get rid of this 4? Well, you divide both sides by 4. All right, so 2,916 divided by 4 is going to give you 729 equals 2 r cubed. And then finally, you can take the cube root of both sides, the cube root of 729, and that will give you your radius. So let's go ahead and find the cube root of 729, and that's going to be 9. So 9 times 9 times 9 is 729. So the radius is 9, and the units are millimeters, right? So this will be 9 millimeters for the radius. Okay, and that's it for this homework guide.